All right, everyone, we are live with today's Sunday Super Chat Q&A. Of course, I've got to make sure that we are actually live on Rumble because they have Super Chats there, or Rumble Rants, I believe that they're called, actually. Send a Rumble Rant for money. We've got some also news topics to cover. Of course, we're going to talk about Biden and price hikes, number one, because they've become legendary, like almost double, actually, in some metrics, what we had during the Great Recession. We also have to talk about Biden's regime change comments, and the cat right now is singing off on the side. You'll probably hear that. So we'll let me refresh the Rumble page, make sure that we're actually live there. Can't remember exactly how long the delay usually is. And no, the cats are not hungry. They get mushy food every other day. They've always got crunchy food on hold for them. They are little chonkers. They are perfectly fine as far as food goes. I'm not seeing the Rumble stream yet. Just a second here. Let me make sure that everything's working. Of course, we're also live on Twitch, unlike a certain other user that has a problem with me. Okay, let me refresh this again. What the fuck is happening? Come on. Show me the money. Yeah, okay, we're live. All right. We don't need that to be playing. Just a second here. Yeah, okay, that's fine. Yeah, so first I figured we'd talk about the Patreon purge, actually. I had contacted Sydney Watson. She works for The Blaze, also does YouTubing. I don't know that she's actually set up a subscribe star, but she was purged off of Patreon. Jesse Lee Peterson, also around the same time, by apparently the same Patreon mod. So there may be some rogue moderation going on there. In both cases, I think for like hate speech, this has happened before, which is interesting because you'll remember years and years ago when other users were purged off of Patreon, the excuse is, well, we don't care about your ideology and what you say online. We're only involved with manifest observable behavior. So firing a flare in rough proximity to a boat full of migrants or something like that. Very quickly, they did a 180 on that, abandoned their own initially explicitly stated principles by the CEO at the time, no less, who also claimed that the Antifa page that was on their fundraising was totally not banned at the same time as Lauren Southern to provide the illusion of political balance. Then they banned Sargon and a bunch of other users. So now Jesse Lee Peterson is gone. Sydney Watson is gone. Patreon is slowly destroying itself. I think they figure that the gig is up. They're losing users. They're no longer culturally relevant. And you've got alternatives. Again, Subscribe Star is the main one. If you are following me on Patreon, by the way, Subscribe Star is actually better. Patreon, I don't think, still does one-time tipping like Subscribe Star does. So it's more convenient. They take a little bit more of a cut, I think, but it's not onerous or anything like that. And they actually care about free expression. Something Patreon has not done in half a decade now, I think, or so. So I'll be talking about various things. So that's the Patreon purge. If you support Jesse Lee Peterson, Sydney Watson, or any other creator, it's best to look them up first on Subscribe Star. Even if you're not doing the monetary thing, you should still be following them. I know some people have a problem with them. Of course, I'm not a fan of The Blaze, but if you're doing independent commentary and you're just doing the consulting thing, I don't really give a shit. Also, we'll talk about the Biden price hikes because the Biden price hikes have reached critical mass. They are still rising at the moment. Inflation continues. Price hikes continue. Biden coming out a couple of days ago and openly stating there will be shortages, which will drive that even further. It is self-inflicted. Biden openly alluding to this fact. And a couple of apologists on there, when I was talking about this, it was very, very funny, saying, well, Biden is effectively admitting openly to the American people that he supposedly represents, prices are going to rise, there's going to be shortages. It'll be my fault through policy, but you just have to buckle down and deal with it because it's necessary. There is no other option other than screwing ourselves to screw Vladimir Putin. I can't think of any more intelligent way to do it than to cause my own people suffering, which is itself disingenuous. Number one, There are other ways to handle it. We should have done it preemptively, but of course he's a moron. Secondly, the price hikes are so bad now, they are more than twice as high in some measures as what we saw during the Great Recession. To be clear, this could, if they weren't pumping the economy, right now we'd be falling into a depression. They're effectively trying to pump the economy full of funny money in order to keep it afloat long enough for things to blow over. We've already been doing this 3 or 4 times in the last couple of decades. The problem is each time, as soon as we can ease back, a new problem arrives and we have to pump the economy more. At what point have we hyperinflated the currency, cheapened the dollar, and destroyed our own industrial capabilities to the point where the economy can no longer sustain it? It's not, we can't do that forever. Even a powerful economy is not capable of doing that permanently. And so I think that Biden's probably going to see in the next year or so a recession. We could fall into a depression because you could have a death spiral. What happens is you've got higher demand than supply because the lockdowns destroyed the supply chains. A lot of industries, trucking, shipping, port closures, etc. The supply rises, prices begin to rise because, of course, the people are willing to pay more because there's so much demand. The problem is that the prices are soaring out of sight so much, eventually the demand falls because nobody in the lower classes and even in potentially middle class can afford it. And then you end up with a death spiral situation. You'll have business closures. You'll have more of a problem meeting the actual demand because the supply will begin to dry up again. People can't afford it. They can't buy it, ergo they don't try to. And then the unemployment begins to rise. That's when you get stagflation. This is sort of what happened in the 70s, although it may be worse this time. The compounded damage to the economy under Bidenomics and lockdownerism could arguably be worse than what we faced in the 1970s. Most people alive today were not sort of with it at the time to actually experience that. The majority of people alive in the Western world were not born at a time commensurate with remembering what it was like then. You'd have to be at least like 4 or 5 years old or something. So you're talking about people born in the early 70s. Anyone born before that? Okay, you remember it. You were sort of with it, more or less. Most people were born after that point. Okay, virtually all of Gen X, all of the millennials. We remember the Great Recession, but not, Carterflation. None of Gen Z. They don't remember that time either. So that's going to be a big problem. I suggest that you stock up. I suggest you do it now while the prices are, relatively speaking, I know that they're higher now. They're going to be higher in a couple of months than they are now. Cut your losses and just stock up however you can. Again, the best advice I can give people in the lower classes, I've been there most of my life. I was in the lowest class during the Great Recession. It sucked dick. You got a job, take up a couple of extra shifts, get that time and a half, get your overtime, and invest that in making sure that you have the things that you will need. The staple goods. Very basic things, some extra butter, rice, canned milk and shit like that. The stuff that you can potentially trade, especially. It would be good if you're in a rural area or outer suburbs. You can potentially hunt. 22 rifle is not that expensive. The ammo is fairly cheap still. Only ammo that is. You can hunt squirrels. You can hunt pigeons or something like that, as the law allows. Be best to set up a nice little home garden, a victory garden, but the government is actively incentivizing people not to do these things. The government does not care about you at this time. They only care about globalism. So, and then we've also got to talk briefly here, I suppose, before we get to the super chats, about Biden's regime change comments a la Russia. The other day, he's in Poland. He makes a speech that is being compared to JFK and Ronald Reagan by idiots online. There are a shrinking number of them, which is good to see, but there are still Jennifer Rubin and some of these other morons on there are still applauding Joe Biden for effectively stating that Putin should be assassinated. Now, you can think whatever you want about Putin, about Russia's invasion of Ukraine, et cetera, et cetera. Making that kind of comment when you express an interest in attempted diplomacy, number one, is not pragmatic. Number two, it is effectively the sort of thing that Russia can use as propaganda to recruit people, number one, to crack down further, number two, to justify its advance, number three, because something that the US and NATO had said for a long time was, hey, no, we're not interested in regime change. We just wish Putin would act a little bit nicer. Well, you're openly stating that you want him out. And then the White House, apparently, they smelled smoke and saw fire, so they decided to go on a massive damage control tour for the last almost 24 hours. It's not fooling anyone who has more than a lukewarm IQ, but they're lying to people. They're saying, well, that's not what Biden meant. He just meant that Putin shouldn't bully his neighbors. No reasonable person would interpret that as being the meaning of what Joe Biden said. I linked it this morning in my main video. You can see it for yourself. Do you really believe that that's about saying that Putin needs to withdraw from Ukraine? It's really important that he do that. No, it's a call for regime change. It's one step from an act of war. This is the sort of crap that led to World War I, by the way. And this time we have nukes. That would be bad. Just to be clear, I know Fallout's a great game, and Stalker and all these other things. It's wonderful to think about, harvesting glowing wildlife and having power armor and stuff. That's wonderful. It's great, but that's fiction. That's not the way it would actually work. Most of you would die of leukemia, actually. Inquisitor Jack, are we surprised a government ruled by people who know they'll never be punished for their crimes continue to commit crimes and actively work against the best interests of their serfs? We are not free. Yeah, virtually no country on earth is actually free. The big censorship debate boils down to the American answer, which is the corporation should shut you up, versus the European answer, which is that the government should shut you up and the corporation shouldn't. I'll probably be writing a little booklet on this subject because it's fascinating. Robert G. Smith, here's my donation to the Diaper Fund. Congratulations on becoming a father, young man. Thank you for making honest content. Thank you very much. Get some Pampers. John Cordisco's Corner. What is the best Rumble license to get? Just looking for a little income since YouTube is killing my channel. I can't remember which streaming one that I got, actually. I don't think if I click off here, it'll probably fuck the stream. Rumble does still have a few issues with chat and with streaming stability. I don't know which one would be best. It really depends on your audience size, how often you'll stream and stuff. Probably one of the higher end ones if you're going to stream like every day, if that's your main thing. The Happy Plague Doctor. Styx, I found an intact syringe from the 1800s metal detecting yesterday. I bet it was an old-time junkie. Probably it was a field doctor, and if you go back to that spot and dig around, you might find a skeleton, actually. That's not a joke, or you might find other medical goods. Nobody just dropped a syringe back in the 1800s for no reason. I don't think it was a junkie. Mostly back then, if they were on opioids or something like that, they smoked it. They wouldn't have been injecting generally. Mike L2535. Hair looking good, Styx. I'm definitely not pleasuring myself right now. Don't worry. Don't worry. I don't mind if you do. I thought it was a little frizzy today due to humidity mainly. JL sent $10 just because. Oh, thank you for that. Again, for the Diaper Fund, or possibly Red Bull or something. Opinionated Junkie. Stores are still closing at 6, 7, or 8 p.m. Enough. Yeah, they have to throttle the store hours. Otherwise, the supply and demand thing would be even more imbalanced. I hate to tell you this, but you might see like a 5 p.m. curfew for shopping or something like that through weekdays. Opinionated Junkie. Price controls disrupt supply. Yeah, Biden, he hasn't openly said that he's interested in that particular concept. But we've seen before, Biden has flip-flopped multiple times. It's not beyond the realm of possibility. It'd be the worst possible scenario. That's the opposite of what we should do. What we should do is hyper-deregulate, throttle back even sanctions just in self-interest. That's what should be done. Go ahead and sell all the guns to the Ukrainians that you want. We shouldn't disrupt the energy supply until our own supply is secure. And Joe Biden has shown virtually no proclivity towards easing the supply. He's saying, well, we're going to make up for lost time. We're going to send liquefied natural gas to the Europeans. I agree with this. It's a good idea. One of the few that he's had. The problem is that you've hyper-regulated natural gas. So the cost will still be high. Those imported goods, and there are European goods, believe it or not, that come to the United States, it's not all made in China, will be more expensive. Joshua San Filippo. Got into gardening this past year, hot peppers as a hobby. Just bought $83 of seeds to try growing new things. With the way things are going, the new hobby may end up saving my life. Yeah, it's growing hot peppers is easy. Funny story, actually. My grandpa was a great one for gardening. He showed me how to garden, actually, initially. He could never get hot peppers or even sweet bell peppers really to grow in the soil in Rutland, and was frustrated about it. He gave up. When I tried it, they were huge, like a crop after crop. I think I got 5 or 6 different pickings from the peppers I grew the last year we were in Rutland. And it was all about the soil. Most soil is carbon poor. And this is something like the older time gardeners, it's like, hey, I'll use compost and stuff. It's great for most crops, but for that kind of crop, give it some good tilth, it'll take right off. My mom was chuckling about that because, I mean, my grandpa, definitely better than me at gardening in general. He had some UVM class, actually, that took lessons grafting from him. They had one of their outsourcing things. They took a field day to see him graft. One of the things he suggested, put Vaseline on your hands before you start, because that grafting, like the gluey stuff they use, it'll stick to your skin and be impossible to get off. But if you use just a thin layer of Vaseline, apparently that doesn't happen. So for anyone out there that wants to graft, you know, fruit trees or something, take my grandfather's sage advice. I'm sure it works well. The Real Holtzinator. Hey, Styx, hope you're well. Did you see Trudeau get absolutely lambasted by the EU? Good luck with your gardening endeavors this season. Yeah, the wisteria and all the other plants out there are starting to bud out. There's an apple tree out there, although I kind of want to remove it. I'm not a big fan of the way they do it here in the Netherlands. They'll make it almost like a hedge. So you've got your tree, and they bend the branches around sideways, and they run it along trellises, and they just keep doing that. I don't think it looks good. I like trees to look like trees. They turn a tree into a bush, and it's like, also got aphids. So gave it to my umbrella plant. I was able to save it, thankfully, and I was like, shit, fuck. BWE Firearms for the Baby Fund. I just lost my wife after 35 years. Yes, condolences, my dude. Hug Liz for me, and as you go through parenthood, always remember Liz loves you. Now, I'm reminded of that frequently. We're a cuddly couple. Maxwell with Schools. There was a large mass shooting recently at a car show in Arkansas. 20+ people were shot, including some children, yet the media isn't covering it that much. You could probably guess why. Okay, is it due to something related to color or to political ideology? I give 50-50 odds. I'll let people make their own decisions about the likelihood. You can give your different ratios. Sebastian Monroe, damn it, YouTube didn't notify me again. That's why you should be following me on some combination of Gab, Minds, Getter, or Parler. Or Twitter if you really want to. I do some shit posting there. Inquisitor Jack, until we restrict the franchise to those who earn it by contributing, we will forever vacillate between gasping for air and being held under the water by the unprincipled, stupid, greedy mob. Yeah, it would be nice to maybe transfer away from the mythology of democracy. Having a constitutional republic is great, but the people that participate in it should have skin in the game, ultimately. Unfortunately, some places are moving in the other direction. Cold Warrior, hi Styx, just prepping for the Biden famine. Lots of dry beans, lots of lentils. Hey, yeah, canned meats, rice, pasta, and water. I'm a Yankee too. Yes, I've got a nice pantry going. These days, having a pantry is considered prepping. We've got, I would estimate if we stretched it, we could get 3 or 4 months worth of food out of it. Of course, Liz is not interested in tinned sardines. I happen to like tinned fish and anchovies and things like that. Our tastes overlap some, but you know, there's never 100%. So we could survive for an extended period. I got a shit ton of rice and pasta. And lots of canned and dried beans. Justin, what do you say to people who think everything we're seeing now is proof the rapture, tribulation, and Antichrist is almost here? I was a Christian, but I'm having second thoughts about leaving the church. I would say that every generation thinks that, because every generation considers things terrible because it gets nostalgia for retroactive periods of time. We are on the edge of a potential world war. That's something that recent generations haven't had to deal with, but former generations did. We've already had 2 of them. That being said, we have nuclear weapons now. Even a full-on nuclear exchange wouldn't end the world or cause the Antichrist to magically appear, because these things are not real. They're based on, ironically, pagan predictions that come before Christendom. And if you look at the canonization of different books that became the Bible, of course, you have something else. Certain versions of Islam have the same basic concept of Dajjal and the Mahdi The Mahdi comes and saves the world. Dajjal is sometimes depicted as a grotesque figure with an eye that looks like a grape, if I remember correctly. Is this a sort of optic problem and troubles the world and spreads degeneracy? And then the Mahdi comes and blasts him with holy fire. Interesting mythology. Geek Rican Z, what are your thoughts on remote jobs? Oh, I have one. The people I communicate with often are halfway around the world. I support the concept. I think it makes things more efficient, actually. Winston Fujimori, Cozy.tv, Styxhexenhammer 666, when? I could join Cozy, I guess. I've thought about it. I've also thought about using Gab for uploads. But, I mean, I use so many sites right now, it's like, I mean, how fucking many uploads in the... I mean, it take 5 hours to do the uploads. 30 minutes to make the videos, 5 hours to upload things. Not very efficient. 87 Sparky, for diapers and energy drinks, you're going to need it. Yeah, no worries about the energy drinks. They have these. Actually, these are not 6 energy drinks. They are called 9. Made actually in the Netherlands. In fact, they might be made in this very city, if I remember correctly. Let me check that. What city are they made in? Just a second. No, they're not made in Amsterdam. They're made in Vegel, I believe it's called. Anyway, I just turned them upside down. I was like, oh, shit. Wouldn't that be an interesting decoration? Kieran, there's a push in Ireland to ban conversion therapy. Thoughts? Love from Ireland. I support the idea because conversion therapy is nonsensical. And also over on Rumble, Rel 21,000. Thank you. Here's the ransom for the cat. I think she likes you. John Cordisco, Cordisco's Corner. I meant a Rumble license, content only. Currently don't live stream. Oh, I think they just gave me one to try to get me to use the site. I don't know. I don't know anything about that process, actually. Sorry. There are fringe benefits to making it on YouTube, none of which have to do with being big on YouTube at this point. Algorithmically demoted and constantly harassed by copyright bullshit. By the way, by Winston Fujimori, congratulations on your child, Styx. I know you and Liz will be great parents and teach her well. Here's for some diapers or Gerber mashed carrots. We're going to be making some of our own baby food, actually, in the future. You can grow the carrots. That's not hard to do. Mush them up. And they'll be more nutritious. Did you know that something like 90% of the nutritive value of certain vegetables is lost within just a few days of being picked? Refrigeration helps some, but it will never be as good as fresh. So, I mean, if you have a kid and you want them to have that good old-fashioned, truly nutritious diet, you should take up gardening. Just make sure everything is sterile and cooked properly, because kids, their immune system a little bit less. Yellow Airman. Someone at my job just quit because we won't be requiring masks. Will masturbators now always be present in society, or will we ever return to normal? Oh, we've returned to normal. Here, like you see, maybe one person at the store has a mask on sometimes. Things are back more or less to normal in, civilized parts of the world. But there will always be people that are paranoid. It's just that, I mean, when that goes away, they'll find something else to be paranoid about. Maybe it's video games. Maybe it's the new alt-right. Maybe it's anything else under the sun, witches or something. The Real Holzinator. Styx, the apple tree thing is called espalier, pronounced espalier. Oh, okay. I guess it makes it more compact when you have, smaller plots of land generally, but I don't know. I just don't think it looks good. And I don't know how to do it, so it'll all go to pot. It'll all go to hell with me. That's not my kind of gardening. A crafty Huragok. Halo show is woke garbage. Doubt it will get better. I know nothing about this subject. Never played Halo in my life or know anything about this show. I've seen it mentioned. The Grizzly. Do you think that the oncoming shortages due to the non-elected steward, Ziden, will cause him to be removed from office once it starts hitting, or do you think there's no will for it? It won't be the shortages that cause potentially removal from office. It'll be deepening Alzheimer's. At some point, get 25th, because there'll no longer be any way for them to hide it. When the adrenochrome stops working, the end is near. Or inflation, price hikes, not the shortage of goods, but the cost of goods. Effectively, imagine that you're in the lower or the working class. Effectively, there is a shortage of goods if you can't afford them because you have to pick and choose what to get. Luminous, quick question. If you were invited to a beheading, would you go? I don't believe in capital punishment, so no, I don't think so. Sebastian Monroe, I've been following since a little before the election. Otherwise, knew you through memes before that. Matt Fury comes to mind. It's been so long. Interesting. Stephen, American Century, 1 year down, 3 to go. I don't know that Biden will serve a full term without getting removed by force or having to resign at the rate that he's going. We'll see what the next round of polls says about his regime change comments and also his comments with regards to impending shortages that will be self-inflicted. When they actually begin, and when we get more inflation data, which will be worse month over month for at least, I would estimate, 4 or 5 more months. We'll see how the public stomachs that. The Everyday Witch. I understand you're against a peaceful divorce of red and blue states. Can you expand on why this is a bad idea? Happy to diaper fun. Yes, number one, because that's crazy. There's no such thing as a peaceful divorce. There'd be fighting involved automatically. Number two, you'd end up creating partitioned nuclear powers. And number three, the geography is not there. So you'd have not 2 states, but you'd have 7 or 8 of them potentially. That would make no sense whatsoever as far as geography and travel go. They'd have to link up at least into a confederacy in order for the existing infrastructure to work. Otherwise, their economies would collapse. The other problem is that China would immediately become the world power. Think what you will about the current U.S. admin or about policies in certain U.S. states. Maybe you're a Republican, maybe a Democrat. You're conservative, you're liberal, whatever, so you have a problem with part of the U.S. A unifying feature is that the alternative is worse, considerably worse. And there's still also, and here's the final point, there's a hope for reforming the system in the U.S. There's actually that malleability, that capability, if the civic will is there. And that civic will, I believe, is growing. You don't have that capability in most countries in the world. You have a locked-in style system of a form of monarchism, a form of oligarchism like in China, etc. And there's no way really, I mean, without a violent revolution, you can't deviate from it. In the US, you don't need the violent revolution, potentially. It would be easier. I mean, people say, well, it's not pragmatic to suggest we can reform the United States. It's much more pragmatic to suggest simply waging a civil war in order to partition the US. I don't think that's pragmatic. The Grizzly, we should also have pushes on the right to ban all gun laws at state levels, and at least the sane, level-headed, non-blue dictatorships will have common sense gun laws on the books. Yes, there are pushes for this right now, gun owners of America and others. Yes, you should definitely own guns. You should push for a recension of all state-level gun control and the abolition of all federal gun control on a constitutional basis. It shouldn't exist. Yes, you should be able to mail order a mortar. You should be able to mail order an actual assault rifle, machine guns, and things of that nature. There should be no background check. There should be no registry. That kind of society, while it comes with its own dangers, those dangers are far less, much more decentralized, than having a monopolism of power from a federal authority. And to Eric Ellard, I don't care what Milo claims because he is disingenuous, actually. The Everyday Witch, I understand that you're against a peaceful divorce. I think you already said that. I think you've posted that twice, actually. Fire down below. Every day I think about Nietzsche's theory on the eternal return, and I think about your occult video, Death is Not Real. I think deja vu is just a reminder of my life in the previous aeon. Am I cray? Now, I wouldn't say that you're crazy, although I don't think that deja vu is a reminder of a past life. I've explained a comprehension of a life or experiences requires the physical processing of the brain. It's a physical object like a computer. I believe in things that are beyond that, spiritual, literally in nature. I believe in non-karmic reincarnation, for example. But I don't believe in remembering past lives and things like that, or in the near-death experience nonsense. I think that it's bullshit. Teresa Logue Meeks. Styx, do you can? If so, what is your process? Large kettle, modern canning appliance. I've done pressure canning a couple of times. Made very good pickled beets. The pickles, a little soft around the sides. Some of them didn't can 100% properly, so they were immediately converted into fridge pickles. They were good. Flavor was good. My mom one time made curried pickles. And boy, oh boy, were they fucking spicy. My dad loved them. Had hundreds and hundreds of cans. There was this one year, I think it was 2008, maybe, or 2007. Now, actually, I think I was still in high school. It would have been in 2006, 2007. And we planted a few too many cucumbers and carrots and beets. My mom went on a canning frenzy. She was doing it every day for weeks. And we had shelves that were, I'd say 12 feet wide on 4 levels, 2 of them completely covered in pickles. I was eating a jar of pickles every day. And at first, it's like when you first try the curried pickles, it's like, you know, your mouth is on fire. After a while, I got used to it, though, and I really, really loved them. I've got to get her recipe and have her teach me how to make that particular kind of pickles because it was amazing. The best thing ever. The crappy robot. See Trudeau getting spanked at the EU Parliament. Yes, that was already brought up, and it is hilarious. Winston Fujimori actually here's $10 for the diaper fund. I forgot we're in the Joe Obama economy. Anyway, what are some Dutch sweet drinks or salty snacks that you wish you could get in America? I don't drink sweet things or eat sweets in general. Bitterballen would be one of the big ones. Bitterballen is great. It's some sort of mashed up meat and I believe grain material that's breaded and fried, served usually with mustard, although it's good with ketchup. That's just my Styxhexen opinion. Amazing. Bitterballen's great. Haring would be another thing. I think it's raw herring, actually, and it's served with minced onions, sweet pickles, minced. Some people find it weird. I think it's delicious. It's a little bit gelatinous and rubbery because it's an uncooked fish, but the flavor is good. It smells very fishy, though, so it's definitely not for everyone. Opinionated junkie. Never thought I'd be buying jeans from thrift stores. Oh, thrift stores, like go to Salvation Army or, you know, any secondhand store. You can get the best stuff ever. That was basically, I mean, I was raised poor. I'm used to that sort of shit. I used to go dumpster diving with my mom for books behind the library. I would never have known about, by the way, the elfin ship if it hadn't been thrown out that day we went dumpster diving. And The Keys to Paradise by Robert Vardaman. And I'm not afraid to admit it. I mean, yeah, okay. I was a poor kid. I know what it's like to scrounge a little bit, skip some meals. Makes you stronger. Miku Huntu, my wagey job still requires masks. Don't hate us. You should find a different wagey job. I'm sure that there are other openings available. You should shop around. Tree stand safety, 20 euros. No comment, thank you. Dusty Brown, can you write or publish a book on the Great Reset, or is one out already by you? I could look into that possibility. I've covered things like censorship and you know, sort of the economic situation a bit. Yeah, I could look into that. It'd be interesting. Dick Cheesehead, croquette with mustard or fricandel mayo. Fricandel's good, yeah. I don't know. Some people apparently don't like Dutch food, and I don't know. I think that it's delicious. Maybe it's the New Englander in me. I mean, it's more seasoned than what I'm used to. Lower class New England food, and your mom is allergic to onions. I put 2 and 2 together. Sam Reagan, thoughts on the LDS Church? Food storage? No hell. I think that the Latter-day Saints are nuts. I oppose Mormonism on numerous historical and ideological bases. But they're wise to they're basically a bunch of preppers. They've got bunkers and shit for their leaders. That makes sense at this point. Pradababe, why do you think Putin really invaded Ukraine? Why is he not succeeding? Any thoughts on him trying to expose corruption in the U.S. government, or is that typical conspiracy theory nonsense? Oh, if he has evidence of any corruption, I'm sure he'd expose it for propagandistic purposes. Wouldn't be wrong. U.S. does this in Russia. WikiLeaks used to do it to both, but Julian Assange is barely allowed to get married in Belmarsh. I think that he invaded predominantly to split off the eastern territories like Donbass and so forth. That's the main reason, to enforce his mandate in Crimea and probably to install a puppet over the rest of Ukraine. I think that it's straightforward. I know that sounds like what you'd hear from CNN, but even a broken clock is right once in a while. I can find no real justification for his actions. There is none. Trees stand safety sent another euro. No comment, though. Inquisitor Jack, Those who support my enslavement and abuse, either by cheering it on or voting for it, are just as much my enemy as the abusers holding the guns. Yeah, that's true. You just described the average liberal. Eric writes, hello, how long do you think RF's economy has before the complete and utter collapse? My guess is another month, but I'm curious, what do you think? A modern army won't fight without money or food. Well, Russia has plenty of food on store, I'm sure, for people, especially for the military. They can always get some extra from China. You see, the problem is this. China has not been sanctioned. China trades with Russia. Russia can get what it needs from China, and China can just buy it from the West anyway. There's no sanctions. There's no trade war on China, like the one that Trump started. Oh my goodness. It's almost like all of this bullshit is not going to do anything. Russia is not going to be stopped by sanctions. Even Biden, after Kamala claiming, months ago that it was about deterrence, he's come out and said it's not going to deter anything. So why even engage in them? It's just going to punish the average Russian person. It's not going to punish some soldier. You're already a Russian soldier. You're being punished enough at the moment. Khalid Cooper sent $49.99. Thank you very much. No comment. Teresa Logue Meeks. Styx, what is your source or process for drinkable water? Do you do any filtering? Well, the water here is actually really good. If I needed to, I could get a couple of survival straws and use a vacuum cleaner probably and just suck it up out of a canal. In the Netherlands, the last thing you have to worry about is potable water because all you have to do is dig a hole. You could do it in the backyard. I could pull up some of those tiles, dig a hole 3 or 4 feet deep. There'd be water in it. And it's too cold of a climate for most of the brain-eating parasites and stuff. So you just boil it. Xavier, will you ever read Mr. Conservative's fanfic? I don't know. I don't know anything about it. Zach the Celtic Sky, as one of your center-left fans, I didn't vote for Biden, by the way, and I'm glad you called out Biden's Putin cannot remain comments. He is pulling a Bush on us, and it is complete and utter lunacy. Yeah, it does sound like Bush. Incoherence and all. Except he's less coherent than W was. I'm surprised. There are so many liberals out there, they support this horse shit. Yeah, years ago, they were like, hey, man, stop the war. Especially the millennial ones or younger Gen Xers. Hey, man, no more wars for oil. But yeah, let's do an energy war on Russia and, threaten World War III. That makes sense. To Human Centipede, Gavin Newsom, here's $400 to help out with high gas prices. Me, wow, this must be the breadcrumbs Styx has talked about. Delicious, but I'm still hungry. Yes, Gavin Newsom has decided to subsidize the Californian population to an extent for the high oil prices. A part of the reason they're high is due to his hyper-regulation. So he's effectively just giving people back a small share of their own money. Winston Fujimori. Okay, last super chat. Styx, why do these troll terrorists keep ruining Ghost Politics Baller Friday? I don't know. I like Ghost. I like his commentary. I promise you I have never rated his chat. Although it'd be funny to see a bunch of clanking there, I suppose. Nocular Tech. Styx, some money for diapers. That's going to be the new meme at some point. Doesn't seem likely, but do you have any bloopers in your vids, and would you publish a blooper vid? Sometimes I do have to stop takes, and most of the time it's cat-related. The cat starts meowing, the cat attacks its sister, the cat jumps up here and knocks down the webcam. I could, but I don't keep the takes usually. Awesome Dude 0007, just because. Well, thank you. Darun Albane, support Clank would not let me post spoon emoji. You can't post spoon emoji on here? That's weird. I think some people have before. Andrus Sobel, did you think it will get this bad with Biden, and will it get worse? Thanks. I did not expect it to be this bad. I expected there to be economic problems, diplomatic problems, his cognitive problems, etc. I didn't expect it to be this much in this short a period of time. Honestly, I expected him to be a bad president, but I figured he'd be like W bad or Jimmy Carter bad. Instead, he's managed to eclipse any modern president, arguably any president other than maybe Buchanan or something that we've ever had. There were presidents that like McKinley gets shot 100 days in. He did a better job. So Sebastian Monroe, look at the Salt Lake Temple. Place is a labyrinth. Yeah, and Mitt Romney's been there. There was secret footage, actually, that a user got of Mitt Romney at the Mormon Temple doing the secret hand signs and wearing magical underwear and things. CC, hey Styx, can you summarize what's going on with Clarence Thomas's wife and text? I just got done watching yesterday's live and you briefly mentioned it. Yes, I did a new tech exclusive today if you want to know more about that. But in a nutshell, Clarence Thomas's wife, Ginny Thomas, or Ginny Thomas, I'm not sure which one, was talking to Mark Meadows on January 6th and saying things that were vaguely QAnon style. Nothing that she said encouraged insurrection. Nothing she said encouraged any illegal behavior. Nothing she said was ever professed to relate to Clarence Thomas's opinions. And yet the liberals now want to impeach and remove Clarence Thomas, which won't happen. There's 0% risk of that, based on what his wife said. So effectively, the liberals, led by Elon Omar here, which is no surprise, right? They think that a strong, empowered black man should not be able to have a strong, empowered wife who has political opinions without getting kicked out of his job. That's what it boils down to. I wish them well in impeaching him because it would backfire so spectacularly. And he's been less reluctant to weigh in on issues lately. He's usually the quiet justice. Lately, he's a little more talkative because Kavanaugh's there. I think he'd give him an earful. And I think that he wouldn't be reluctant to throw their id-poll bullshit back in their faces. The Grizzly, what are your predictions for the next 10 years? We're going to have some bad times ahead, but then they'll get much better. I think that if Trump runs again, he wins. I think DeSantis would be a runner-up, Rand Paul possibly, and then we'll finally have sane leadership again for some time. And that would take us almost to the end of the 2020s at this point. Transylvanian 90, how insane is it that Biden first told U.S. troops they'd soon see Ukraine for themselves, then calling for regime change in Russia, forcing White House officials to backtrack on his words both times? Yes, I think that the first one was a genuine gaffe. I don't think that he actually was insinuating he would send troops to Ukraine because that would start World War III. The call for regime change, though, was apt. That was clearly his real opinion. They walked it back double time, way more quickly than the Ukraine troops thing. That they just said, well, he sort of misspoke. He meant to say, like, you're going to see Ukraine on TV or something. Okay, I'll give him that. I don't give a shit. With his regime change comments, there is no other way. There's no alternative to interpret what he said. And I think it's nuts. Trevor Headley, Styx, I've been watching you for a while, and I thank you for contributing to my political shift in ideology, as I was very far left about 3 years ago. Yeah, it just took you a little more time than me. I was left-wing 2 years ago, end of the 2000s, early 2010s. Look back at my videos. It's all anti-religion and talking about like people like Rick Santorum doing and saying crazy shit. And I hold to that. Rick Santorum's nuts. Along with all of the old T-evangelical movement. Moralists, right-wing, literal right-wing fascists at that point. But there's a new right wing. It's more populist. The new left wing is censorious. They've changed. I didn't. My views are exactly the same. Shinobi Kenobi. Putin has nearly achieved his stated goals. 1, degrade and demilitarize Ukraine but not occupy it. 2, denazification of Ukraine, Crimea land bridge achieved. Yeah, the denazification, that's horseshit. That's just an excuse. And it's very, very ironic. Who cares if there are Nazis in the Ukraine? I don't care if there are Nazis anywhere. Plenty of commies in the world. Nobody worries about them despite their much higher death toll, I notice. Tree stand safety. Damn is the ideal city. Holes there soon. Cheers. Dahuman Centipede. If the Ukraine war continues for the rest of this year, I predict Biden will ease up on the sanctions by October as the midterms approach. Do you agree? No, I don't. I think he'd have to do it much earlier than that, like by early summer, in order for it to have a meaningful impact before midterms. If he does it in October, it wouldn't have any real effect. So, no, I don't think that'll happen. By the way, everyone, please don't send any more super chats than are already here because I got a bunch to go through. And, of course, we're going up on 45 minutes already. John Ski just bought stroopwafels at a supermarket made in the Netherlands. Are those a real thing or fake foreign cookies? If they were made in the Netherlands, they're probably real. But you can get them handmade here, like at the street markets and stuff. They are better. I will admit that stroopwafels are good, but I try to avoid eating any sweets at all. I don't eat candy. I don't eat snacks like pie and cake and stuff, donuts. I don't eat any of them. I try not to eat any bread either. Mike K. Styx, you're the first channel I ever subscribed to 6 years ago when you had 20,000 subscribers. You're the best political analyst out there. If I run for office, I hope you'll be my campaign manager. I can be your unofficial foreign advisor to the Netherlands or something. I'll be the unofficial ambassador, and you can get some. I'll ship you some bitterballen. You send some actual hot dogs. By the way, the Dutch don't understand that hot dog buns are necessary to eat hot dogs with. You can get. I kid you not. The only hot dog buns that I've seen at the store are with like the American style, in other words, shitty hot dogs, and they're prepackaged. You can't get actual packs of hot dog buns, but they sell hot dogs. They sell 7 or 8 different types of hot dogs. There's pork hot dogs, there's the extra long hot dogs, there's bratwurst of various kinds that you could put on a bun, but there are no hot dog buns. Now you got hamburger buns, but you don't have hot dog buns. I don't understand it. It's a big problem. As diplomat to the Netherlands, on your campaign, I will look into this, and I will advise the government accordingly. Axzilla, have you listened to Ghost's new album, Impera? If so, what are your thoughts on it? No, I didn't know they had a new album. I like Ghost. I'll have to listen to it. on Twitch, Shunt4000. Azov Battalion are actual Nazis, and they do things like execute people for leaving the battlefield or skin people's penises on the field. So they're like every other group of mercs in the world. I hate to tell you, but that sort of weird shit happens in battle all the time. It's generally relegated to the third world, but, you know, Ukraine's not exactly a fully developed nation, so. The Woods Nation. I think the left are so scared of the midterms that they will lean on these tech companies to start purging the most center-right commentators. Oh, they're already doing that. That's why you have to use alt tech, or new tech rather, make exclusives, drive people to them, and mince your words. It's not self-censorship, it's called self-preservation. Transylvanian 90, funny how some people who profess to see through the media's BS understand the lie of Nazis launched at them, but when Putin's propaganda says it about the Ukraine, they believe it without question. Yeah, exactly. So if they say it about some random YouTuber or Twitch streamer or a Facebook page, well, they're Nazis. No, they're not. Now, that's bullshit. Legacy media is lying to me. Government's lying to me. Big tech's lying to me. That's true. But then when Putin says it, they believe it all of a sudden. It's fucking horseshit. I don't care how many swastika tattoos the Azov Battalion has. That's it doesn't mean anything. So in other words, you can invade a country to get rid of people with ethno-nationalistic views. What does that say about all the content creators that are labeled Nazis by the legacy media, including some that are genuinely ethno-nationalistic? So let's say that you allow ethno-nats to talk in some random country. They're allowed to have an opinion. Does that mean that you can nuke them to get rid of the evil Nazis? What about communists? Why don't we just nuke everyone at that point? That's what would happen. Shunt 4000, believe without question. They wear the symbols of Nazis and do fucked up war crimes. Everyone's doing war crimes over there, and I don't care what symbols they wear. I've been told that Thor's hammer is a Nazi symbol. You know, maybe they're Buddhists. Maybe those swastikas have to do with Ganesha. How am I supposed to know? I am arguing devil's advocate slightly here. My main point is I don't believe in censorship, and I definitely don't believe you should be able to invade a country because a paramilitary component of it happened to have ethno-nat views. I wouldn't want to invade someone because a component of the country was paramilitary and had communist views. And communism's way worse, much more butcherous. You got communists all over in Southeast Asia. Russia's not talking about, hey, maybe the Chinese should invade this country. There are communist militias there. We've got to save people from these separatist communists. Then it would actually save lives, too. How many lives has Russia saved through their actions so far? I'm guessing a negative number. Soul Native Styx, how are you going to speak on Timcast if it's family friendly and you can't swear until after the show? He'll hopefully make an exception for you. Well, I can fucking go without swearing for, Timcast show. I am capable of self-control. It's just normally, I'm here on my own channel. I don't have to self-control. I can say all sorts of weird words. Kasperian saying that 14,000 Russian natives have been massacred by Ukrainians over the course of a number of years. Okay, how many Ukrainian civilians have been massacred so far by the Russians in a much smaller period of time? I would ask that. Again, you want to denazify, but you're in some cases proclaiming traditionalistic views, and it's not exactly a coherent ideology that's being followed. Ty Sloan, do you think China will wait out Japan and South Korea while their populations get old and take them over? Also, thoughts on if Tibet will be free. Tibet's fucked. Japan and South Korea are too advanced for the Chinese to tangle with, I think. And their populations are getting older, but so is China's. Remember, they've tried to boost their birth rates. They scrapped the one-child policy, then they scrapped the two-child policy, and they still get a demographic crisis even after unleashing COVID to kill off a bunch of old people. They've got the same problem that the Japanese have. Anyway, I think I'm going to go off now. I finally got through the super chats, going on 51 minutes here. There are other things that must be done today. But I had a good time. Let's see, we're at 2,600 over on YouTube and Twitch, almost 700 in Rumble. Yeah, so we went to 11 Biden loser units. 300 viewers is a BLU, or Biden loser unit. I can't wait till the midterms. Probably hit 10,000 viewers fairly easily. Maybe more than are watching some of the legacy broadcasts, assuming that we're not banned by then. You never know. Of course, they will be censoring people more before the midterms. Analysis PLZ, nobody will miss you. On Twitch, of course. Lots of people will miss the commentary. Some people wish I would stream 24/7. Here's me snoring in bed. Here's me taking a shit. Ty Sloan, thoughts on Biden agreeing with one China with his talk with Xi? Oh, you mean Xi? Yeah, he's nuts. There is one China, though. I would agree. There is one China. It's just that Taiwan happens to be the legitimate governing authority of the whole thing, not Beijing. So yeah, I'm going to go off now. And thank you very much for your super chats and your participation. Don't worry, there will be much more to come. One more, Smokey Wee sent $4.99 without a comment. So it's time to end the broadcast. That's about all.